Quorum, and now we'll open our meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome all of the citizens in the audience tonight. Thank you for coming, and there will be opportunities for you to speak as we move forward. I will move on to items from council. Are there any items from council?
I have one. At our last meeting, we had some discussion about National Night Out, and I made the suggestion or request as we talked about different nights to maybe look at doing a National Night Out at the national date. I've had some misinformation about what those dates might be and have discovered, if Google is correct, that National Night Out for the rest of the country is the first Tuesday in August, which would be a horrible time for us to have National Night Out. And National Night Out in Texas is the first Tuesday in October. So we're back to Mr. Lufgren's request, but I'd like to apologize for suggesting that we do it at the time that the rest of the country does. That doesn't make sense. Stick to Texas. So I apologize to the chief and to Mr. Lufgren.
Any other items from council?
I have two things. There's a House Bill 2436. It has to do with building materials, and a lot of cities are changing their codes. Does it affect us?
Be happy to bring a report back on that for you.
Okay. The second thing was, I'd like to know, I guess it's traffic control. There are two signals that, one is Millette and Zach Lentz on both sides. I have never, and maybe it's my luck, I have never come to that signal when it's green. It lasts a long time. I just would like to know how it works. The signal on Huvar and Navarro, I one day watched it, and you can't really watch it when it's busy because there's all this traffic, but at 10 o'clock in the morning, I got off and I parked, and cars will come up on Huvar, set it off, the signal goes, they turn right, and there's no cars. And so I'd like to know how the signals work. I mean, if there's because the signal was going off and there's no cars.
Sure.
So
We have the ability to look at that, and some of that actually came up at the MPO meeting today.
Yeah, so the one on Millette and Zach Lentz, I'll have to get the timing on that for you, but the one at Huvar and Navarro I know is a problem. As you're coming towards Navarro, it's got that little kind of turn, and being a narrow lane, there's no real way for us to aim that motion camera at it without picking up a car. So that's just a real tough intersection to time, or not to time, but it's a tough intersection to move traffic through there because you don't know when that car pulls up, the camera can't detect whether it's in like a left turn lane or if it's going to turn right or if it's going to go straight or whatever. That one's just a real hard intersection because of that dog leg. So we'll try to adjust it a little bit better though.
okay,
But I'll get back to you with Millette and Zach Lentz.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
And I have one, and it's more just a public service announcement, and I've talked to Mr. Reese about this. On Crestwood, the first section's under construction. It is between Ben Jordan and Laurent, and it is one way from Laurent to Ben Jordan. There's been quite a number of cars that are coming the other way. And it's very well signed. It's just, please pay attention if you are driving that. It's more for the public. People are not paying attention to the signage, and just take care.
Any other items from council? Hearing none, we'll move into citizens' communication. This is a time when any citizen can come forward and speak to us at council. I would ask that if you're here to speak to one of the items that's under public hearings, that you reserve your time for that period of time. So are there any citizens who would like to communicate with council tonight? Seeing none, I'll move into public hearings.
Item C1 is an ordinance setting the tax rate at a total rate of $0.6115 per $100 of property valuation and levying a tax upon all property subject to taxation within the city of Victoria, Texas for the 2019 tax year for the use and support of the municipal government of the city of Victoria, providing for an assessment and collection of taxes, apportioning said levy amount to the various fees and items for which revenue must be raised, including providing a sinking fund for the retirement of the bonded debt of the city, providing for penalties and interest for delinquent taxes as prescribed by the Texas Tax Code, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing for savings, and declaring an effective date.
I will now open a public hearing on item C1. Anyone here to speak to this matter, please step forward. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing.
Mayor, I'll remind the members of the public that there will be one more reading on the tax rate on September 17th, and there will be a public hearing that night in case anyone is interested.
I move to accept item C1.
That item needs a particular motion language
Oh,
to be
I'm
made.
sorry.
You want me to
I
read
thought it
it?
was an amendment.
Yeah, he can read it if you'd like to be
Nope.
the one to make the motion.
Go ahead.
Oh, come on. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.6115 on each $100 property valuation, which is effectively a 2.6% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
And moved and seconded to adopt item C1. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Item C2 is an ordinance authorizing the issuance, sales, and delivery of City of Victoria, Texas Certificates of Obligation Series 2019, approving and authorizing an official statement and the distribution thereof, a purchase contract, a paying agent registrar agreement, approving and authorizing all other instruments and procedures related thereto, and providing for an immediate effective date. Mayor, before we get a motion on the floor for this item, I'd like to explain the note here that says we'll be tabling this item for consideration until the next meeting. Council members, you may remember that back in August, I believe it was, we passed a resolution, you passed a resolution authorizing the city to publish a notice of intent to sell these bonds. That notification was published, and it said that we would be considering these bonds tonight. However, we can't sell the bonds until after the budget and tax rate have been adopted. And due to a scheduling conflict, we adjusted the budget calendar out an extra week. And so we're not actually finally adopting the budget and tax rate tonight, so we can't take action tonight on this item. Nevertheless, our outside bond counsel has requested that we do go ahead and put this item on the agenda and then table it. I agree with that recommendation because I think it will keep the historical record clear. So what I'm going to ask for is for someone to make a motion and a second to approve this item, and then someone else to make a motion and a second to table this item. And if we get through all of that and and the motion to table passes, we will bring this back at the September 17th agenda. I hope that made sense.
Can I ask a question between the motion and second when we can have discussion and before we table it?
Sure.
When we can't talk about it anymore? Okay, well then I'll make the motion to approve C2.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve. Discussion.
So my question was just, as you were talking, you said that the notice said that we would be doing this tonight and having the sale. That's not impacted by the change in date?
Our outside bonds counsel says no. The actual sale of the bonds is not impacted by the fact that we're not adopting this tonight, but that we need to take action to keep the historical record clear that we didn't simply overlook this item.
And you may recall that we had a meeting scheduled for the 22nd of August, which was the same day that there was that Council of Governments event. And so we canceled that one, and that's kind of what pushed everything out a little bit.
Make
If
a
we-
mo-
it- I'm
oh,
sorry, go ahead.
No.
No, I'm done.
I was going to make a motion to table C2.
Second it.
We now have a motion and a second to table item
Apologize.
C2.
I want to clarify that motion. It's for a specific time, September 17th meeting?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
That would make two items that have been tabled for September 17th.
Does that make for a long meeting?
Do we need an
Big
amendment
table.
to his motion or just let him amend it?
I think as long as everyone
Clarification.
agrees that his motion was meant to postpone to September 17th, we're fine.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table item C2 until September 17th. All those in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right. Item D1 on the agenda shouldn't require any calisthenics for us to approve it. This is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a real estate lease and professional services agreement with the South Texas Zoological Society Incorporated for management of the Texas Zoo in the amount of $125,000 and declaring an effective date.
Move to accept item D1.
Second.
Been a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda item D1. All those in favor, is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. And I believe that is the conclusion of our business tonight, so I will now adjourn the meeting.